Okay, so I thought I'd do some, some CFA, that is Chartered Finance Analyst questions that are freely available online. Um, because this is, for the majority of people, uh, super hard. But for me, when I took it, I'm just gonna put a disclaimer. So I already got this designation. I already passed all the exams. Um, it wasn't really that bad. As you see, the problem is, what I noticed is, if you study, uh, you can easily pass this exam. It's people don't study, they don't put in the effort, they study for the last minute. And so, that's where there's a lot of problems with people complaining about the difficulty of the exam. Again, it's not hard if you study and know the material. I mean, the questions are pulled straight from the book, so I never understood why people would complain about the difficulty of the exam. But that's just me. Um, and so, in a nutshell, um, besides having topics on real estate, I'll just get a little briefer. Real estate, stocks, bonds, derivatives. What can I remember? Well, I guess this is technically called fixed income. And then there's financial statement analysis, which is different from accounting, because accounting you have to do the bookkeeping. This one is, you have the numbers. How do you predict finance statement analysis? Um, so basically, most of the exam, uh, you know, is basically, if you basically know what NPV is, net present value is equal to future value. That's all this just floating around right here. That's the bulk of the exam. I'd say, about 80% of the exam is knowing how to twist and contort this net present value into future value. So don't let anybody tell you, oh, stocks are easier, bonds are hard, real estate. It's the same. Probably it's the same damn thing in a different notation. Financial statement analysis is, you can really, if you can use some common sense and just know the rules. This one's not too bad. And that's essentially the exam. But let me actually do a couple of problems. So the first question is, let's see if my pen can write. Okay, the following information is available for a manufacturing company. So you have the cost of ending inventory computed using FIFO, which is first in, first out. And if you trade stocks, you will know that they typically do use FIFO. You can use FIFO accounting. You can always change that to LIFO. Net realizable value of 4.1 million. Current replacement cost of 3.8 million. So alarm bell should go off, because there's a formula going on here, because The question is, the company is using IFRS instead of GAAP. So everybody else in the world uses IFRS. USA is special. We use GAAP. Its cost of goods sold in millions is most likely what? So, because this is a CFA, they'll give you multiple choice, but I will tell you right now, you don't need to look at the choices. You should be able to solve this problem without having to look at the choices. The minute you look at the choices, you're done, because that shows that you don't know the material well. So you should be able to answer this without looking at any of the choices. Very simply based off your knowledge and what you read. Okay, and so we'll solve this one. So let's clear this out. And so, how do we do this? Well, under IFRS, the inventory would be written down to its net realizable value, which, if you recall, is 4.1 million. Now, this is a rule. This is nothing fancy, nothing out of the ordinary. The only thing that changes is, the situation. So it could have been, instead of 4.1 million, I could have said 5.1, could have said 6.1. But this right here is the rule. You just have to memorize it, because that's a standard, and you have to know the standard. Nothing ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you did not know the standard, you would not know what to do. Okay, and so under US GAAP, market value is defined as current placement cost and would be written down to its current placement cost, which is the 3.8 million. Again, know the rule. Market value is defined as the current replacement cost. Okay, so these are two different standards. One is the net realizable value, and two is the market value, which is defined as the current replacement cost. So two different standards working here. So what's the conclusion? So the conclusion is the smaller write down under IFRS will reduce the amount charged to the, I'm going to call this COGS, cost of goods sold, compared with US gap and result in a lower COGS of 0.3 million. Right? So, why does that happen? Remember, the cost of ending inventory was computed using FIFO, and that was 4.3 million. Okay? And so, if you're changing it, right? Changing it from well, you're not really changing. You just know what it was, just using FIFO. So now, if you're using IFRS, well, the cost of goods inventory is going to be 4.1, where if you're using GAAP, it's 3.8. So from 4.3 down to 4.1, that inventory write-off is 0.2 million, right? Versus the 4.3 to 3.8, which is 0.7 million, right? And we had choices, so let me just tell you what the choices are. So the choices were is it 0.3 higher, 0.3 lower, the same. Now I'll ask you, because if you look, some of these choices may not make any sense, because when you do the math, it doesn't really come out to be 0.3, but what's close to it? So that would be B. I'm sorry, it's asking for the difference between the two, so that makes some sense. See, what I did was 0.43 minus 0.41, you got 2, and then the other one was 0.43 minus 3.8, and you got yourself a 0.5, and so they're asking the difference between the two. But you're still going to have a lower value regardless. It's just, sometimes these multiple choices are a little bit wonky, but I hope that made sense. Let's see what other one we should do. Okay, so we're going to go into some options now. And so this is dealing with derivatives. So if you do stocks, if you trade options, we're not talking about that. They're going to be basically asking you about options theory, options graph. Really stuff that makes sense in theory, but if you are a practitioner like me, this stuff doesn't work. But for theory basis, yeah, I mean, you need to know it. But in reality, this stuff doesn't work. It's just pure theory. So anyways, when valuing call option using the binomial model, an increase in the probability that the underlying go up mostly implies that the current price, the call option, and again, this is just based on the theory, based on what you read, so you should not have to look at the choices. And I'll give you the choices later. But look at this. So this is not in the binomial model for options pricing. You could say they tricked you. They didn't really trick you. If you actually read the material, understood the stuff, you'll know it doesn't exist. So it's not relevant because they're priced using risk neutral probabilities. Which are derived by constructing a hedged portfolio in absence of I'm going to call it's arbitrage arbitrage opportunities. So now let me give you the choices. So is it A, which is is it A, it increases, B remains unchanged, or C, it decreases? Well, it told you the up, down, the direction doesn't matter because it's not part of the theory, not part of theory. So you can automatically eliminate the directions and then just unchain. So I hope this helps. So this really shows you how you need to really know and understand the material in order to do well on this exam. So if you want to see more things like this, let me know.